Hey, what's going on guys? So in this one we're going to be adding a weapon swapping system. We're going to be making it so that in this we'll have the sword, which we've already created, and then we're going to be able to switch between a gun and then back to the sword. So let's get straight to it. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to need to create the new game object. So we're going to be creating a gun. So we're going to set a new object and we're going to add a sprite. And then for this I'm just going to draw a placeholder, so I'm just going to draw something like this for now. Obviously create your own assets if you like, but for this video I'm just going to keep it quick and we'll just use this. And then we'll just set the origin point to somewhere around here. Okay, great, we'll call this gun. And now what we need to do is, so we need to add a new variable to the character so we can tell it when to know which weapon it's holding. So we can just call this like which weapon, or whatever you like. We'll keep this a number. Okay, great, so we've got our two weapons now, and we have the variable. So let's go to the event sheet. Alright guys, so once you're in the event sheet, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new group, and we're going to call this weapon swap. And now in here, this is where we're going to set the different conditions for when we'll switch between the weapons. So we're going to use that variable we created as a check-in point to know when to switch. So in this example, we'll be using the button keys. I'm going to be making it so that when you press 1 or 2 on the keyboard, that will then set it to change from 1 or 2 in the current weapon, and that's how we'll then test. So again, this will be up to you in the future what kind of control system you want to use, or whether you want to make it so they even just interact with a sprite or something like that. But for this we'll be using buttons. So to do this, we're going to search keyboard, and we're going to search on key pressed, and we're going to say 1. So on 1 pressed, and then we can duplicate this, and we can call this 2, and this will be our 2 different checks. So then what we're going to do, so on 1 pressed, we're going to search character or play, whatever you've called it, and we're going to say set value to our new value variable we just created, so which weapon, and we're going to set that to 1. We can duplicate this again, and we can then set this to 2. So now 1's press will set it to 1, 2's press will set it to 2. So next we're going to add 2 functions which we're going to call depending on which button we press. So we're going to right click and we can add a function, and then these functions we will call, so you can name these after whichever weapon you want, whether you want to add a bow or whatever in the future. So for this one we will say, we'll call this one sword, and then we can just duplicate this and we can call this gun. And then what we can do, just to get the basic idea down, is then, so we'd go in here, we'd go function, and then we can just call the function. So we could call gun in 1 pressed, and then we could, once again in number 2, we can call sword. So this is the basic structure, just so you can get an idea of the actual structure. So this won't work yet, but as you can see, so now when you press 1, we would set the variable and call this function here, and then 2, we'd set it to 2, which would call this function here. Now next thing what we want to do is we want to add a condition to the functions which say we need this variable, to be 1 or 2. And this is just, again, it's an additional check to make sure we stop it from duplicating or constantly firing off. So we can right click here, we can add a condition, and we can say character compare variable. Once again, which one, and then we're going to say so equal to 1. And then we can just duplicate this in here, and we can say equal to 2. So now that's just an additional check we have in there. So once you've done that, we can now start adding the actual functionality. So we can head into the gun first, and what we're going to do is so the first thing we'd do is we would destroy the other weapons. So we'll search sword, destroy, and then in here we would do gun, destroy. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to duplicate these in each one. Now what this does is this is just an additional check to make sure nothing goes wrong. Or so for example, we also already start with an additional weapon. So if we're already starting with a weapon, this, by having these duplicated here, this will also make sure that whatever weapon you're starting with, it will also destroy that one. This eliminates the possibility of duplicated weapons and things like that. And before we continue, we need to head back to the layout, and there's a couple of things we need to tweak first. So for the gun, we need to actually add a different behavior. So we need to add a pin behavior to this. If you followed along in the series, you'll already have a pin behavior on the sword. And then on top of this, we're going to go into the character. And as you can see, I've already got this here. I don't know if I added this in a previous video, but we need to right click and just add a new image point. And then place this point wherever you want your weapons to spawn in. So I've placed it right here where the back arm would go. And then you want to just make sure that you apply this to all of the different animations that you've got. Once you've done that, we can then go back into the event sheet. Alright guys, so once again we can go, so we're going to head over to gun. And we're going to search character, spawn another object. We're going to spawn the gun. We'll set the layer to main, or whatever layer you're choosing, but I've just been putting things on the main layer for you guys who are if you're using the free version. And then we'll set the image point to the one we just created, so image point 1. And then next what we can do is we can once again add another action, gun again. And if you scroll right to the bottom, what we can do is, so if you have the paid version, it would maybe make more sense to have different layers for this. However, there's an easy fix as well if you're limited in layers, and you can just simply click move to object, and we can just set it behind the character. Next, all we now need to do is we just need to pin this to the character using the behavior we just added. So we'll search, once again, we're going to search gun, and we're going to pin to object. We're going to search character. We can then disable angle, we don't need to change the angle with that, and we can keep everything else the same. And that's it for the gun. So now what we need to do is we just need to duplicate this, the same functionality, just in the sword, but the other way around. So we could actually copy these here. We can paste them in, and then all we need to do is we just need to change it from gun to sword. So we can search here, we'll search sword instead, and then we can keep the rest the same. In here, same again, change it to sword. And lastly, the pin behavior, go back again, and just search sword. So let's test this so far. As you can see, we've currently got our sword working as usual. And if I press the 2 key, or the 1 key, sorry. So now when I press the 1 key, as you can see, it's now switched to the gun. And if I press 2, it goes back to the sword, which is working as it should. So that right there, guys, is how you would set up the functionality for this. Now, just real quick, I'll show you, just to get the gun working, what we would need to do is you need to have a new object. Now I've already done this actually, so what I'll do is I will just show you. So what you do is, in the previous video we created a turret with bullets. Now the bullets you would just use the exact same method. So what I'll do is I'll drag this in, and I'll just walk you through this. So all you would do is you create a sprite, call it bullet, or whatever you'd like to call it. And then in behaviors you would right click and you would add a bullet behavior. And we've set the speed to 400 and the rest kept at 0. And then just as simple as that, that's all you need to do for the bullet. We then want to head back into your event sheet, and then we can just add a new event, and we can search mouse, click, so we can search on click, left clicked, and then all you would have to do is you could search gun, spawn another object, and you could spawn the bullet. And then on top of that you could add delays and things like that, but that depends on how you want your game to function. You can then set that on the main layer again, and image point to 1. Now actually what I would do is, so I've set this to 1 for the gun, but you just want to make sure, you might need to add another image point, so we can add image point 1, and then just set it to in front of the gun. You don't want it directly on there, just to make sure that it doesn't clip with your character and cause damage. And then all we need to do now is we just need to have another condition, add condition, and we just need to, well actually we can just copy this here. We just copy this and we just paste that in here. So now on left clicked, if the which weapon variable is equal to 1, we will shoot the bullets. So this is just a great way, again, this is why we added this variable, because now we've got checks for different weapons. So now it knows when to do something or not, otherwise it would just fire off both the bullet and the sword at the same time. Alright guys, so as you can see we've got the sword, and if I switch to the gun, and we can now shoot. And we can just very easily, we can switch back, nice and smooth, it works great. So that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Take care guys, bye.